Yo, what's up guys? This is Rise and welcome to another video. For those of you that are new to the channel, I am a competitive Pokemon Go player and a commentator as well for the Pokemon Company. I'm a four-time regional champion. I've been second place at the North American International Championships before. I've been top 10 at the World Championships before. And I am also a huge sports fan and someone that appreciates history and appreciates, the greatest of all time discussions people have across different sports and everything. And what we witnessed this past weekend, I think it's hard to argue in the GOAT debate of our little game of Pokemon Go against Itsaxn as the greatest of all time in Pokemon Go PvP. And we're going to be going through his run, not every single match that was on stream, but several of them, and kind of breaking down how he was able to become the first person in our game to win 2 international championships, which is absolutely insane. And we're going to start with a match against yours truly. We were actually paired in the same group on day 1, so you could argue a tough draw for me, but that's how the game works, man. You got to play who's in front of you, and Axen and I were both in Group F. We both were undefeated at the time, which brought us to the winners finals of our group on day 1. And that's where we would square off. Axen and I have only met once before in our play Pokemon careers, and he was able to beat me 2-0 in Louisville at the beginning of this season. So we are going to be squaring off again here. And looking at this matchup, I felt really strong, honestly, about my team. I felt like my Tinkaton was really good. It was really only afraid of Diggersby, good against pretty much everything else. And my Quag, I thought, was like okay. But I had just watched Axen win against Chen Yu on stream, and Chen Yu brought the Quag every single game, and the Quag was just like, it was pretty meh because Axen was able to maneuver around it with its lack of pressure against things like Lapras and how long it takes to get 2 attacks against the Araquanid. So I was a little bit hesitant to bring the Quag because I thought he'd be expecting the Quag and he might try to gang up on it. But I liked my Primeape as well. I thought my Primeape looked quite safe. And I came up with a strategy that you're going to see here in Game 1 that I thought pretty much worked to perfection, and we'll see how Game 1 goes. So we're gonna go through my match against Itsaxn before we get into the rest of his run, but this is, I guess, still part of his run even though it includes me. But here we go, Group F finals. We lead Primeape into Dedenne, and in this scenario I'm gonna save swap Drapion because it's pretty safe against his team, and the whole strategy is to lure out the Diggersby in order for my Tinkaton to be free in the back. And you see that little expression on Axen's face, and I wonder if that's exactly what he was realizing right there. When we see that expression, like, maybe it's the Tinkaton, could that be some trouble for me? So we get off 2 Aqua Tails here before a Scorching Sands, which is going to chip the Diggersby. And in certain scenarios, I might be more willing to put up a Protect Shield here to try and flip this matchup, but I can't really shield, knowing that if I expend shields, it's not going to be good for my Primeape, right? Because Primeape is going to need shields to be able to do stuff. I do lag 2 turns here when I come in with my Primeape, so I miss out on a Karate Chop. It's going to cause me to take an extra quick attack here, but we'll see if that ends up mattering at all. I get the Karate Chop down, and in comes Dedenne. And what I'm trying to do is peel off shields with my Primeape here. We're able to get to this second Karate Chop here on the Charge Attack priority. And this is going to draw Axen's first Protect Shield. Because we got that farm down, we are now going to outpace to this third Rage Fist here. And this is going to draw his final Protect Shield. Now, I know he's 1 away, and I want to keep my Primeape around, so I instant pivot into my Tinkaton. He's going to throw Parabolic Charge to do some chip damage here. And then this is going to be a pivotal point of the game. I recognize that he might try to catch here, so I attempt to wait a turn, but I think he also waited a turn. Yeah, he also waited a turn, and you can tell that he also waited a turn because no Psy Wave came through. No Psy Wave came through here. So he waited a turn and makes a beautiful catch, catching this Bulldoze onto his Lapras. I do get a debuff, however, which could come into play. Now, keep in mind the switch clock is desynced. The switch clock is desynced, which could be good for me. And he's going to go for the Sparkling Aria here, which is not going to quite knock out. And I was hoping that maybe he'd throw on Charge Attack priority, and I think this decision right here may have cost me the game, where my switch timer was up and his switch timer was not. So I think if I had swapped my Ape immediately, I essentially force... I'm still going to be one away from the Bulldoze, but I essentially force Axen to Sparkling Aria my Primate, and his win condition at that point would be to do an undercharge and then swap in with the Dedenne and Thundershock me down. So it would not have guaranteed me the win, but it would have made it a lot more difficult for Axen, where he would have had to like recognize to undercharge the Sparkling Aria to then Thundershock down, where if he KO'd my Primate, I think I win the game. So by trying to store the Bulldoze and catch, that wasn't going to be the right play for me. Axen gets the Parabolic Charge here first and takes game number 1. Very well played. And we're going to skip ahead a little bit to game number 2. And I recognized he was pretty soft to the Quagsire in game number 1. So I decide to bring it here in game number 2. And, you know, this game is one of those games I kind of wish I could have had back. Because game 1, I think the strategy worked to perfection. I think I had a win condition maybe there in the end and just lacked. But this game is one where I think I lacked a good strategy, really, because how I play this was just never really going to work. We would have had to do something differently here. So we go for the Stone Edge, and Axen is going to put up the Protect Shield. And what I'm thinking here is hopefully he Bubble Beam baits. If he Water Pulses, I know it should knock out, which will be kind of bad for me, but I'm thinking I come in Mandy. If he stays, great. It'll set up Ape. He pivots Lapras, and we just saw him bring the Dedenne in the last game. So I make the decision here in the moment to stay against Lapras, and this is just going to put me in an insurmountable deficit, I think. Because let's say it was the Dedenne. Let's say it was the Dedenne, and I stay in. Him having such a healthy Araquanid as well is going to be too much to handle anyway. So I think my only way to win is to immediately pivot the Ape and start ramping up. And because it wasn't the Dedenne, and the fact that I still would have had a full health Mandibuzz, I think if I immediately pivot the Ape into Lapras and start ramping up, we put a lot of pressure on Axen, and maybe we actually have a way to win this battle. But what I decide to do here to stay in, thinking he's trying to bait out my Primeape and then have Dedenne for Ape, now he already has a Bubble Beam for my Ape. You see me shaking my head, knowing that this is already not a great matchup for Primeape, because even though we resist the Bug Bites, they still chunk because Primeape is so glassy. Rage Fist is going to not do much. It's going to tickle the Araquanid, which is a cool spice pick, by the way, for Axen that he said he was inspired by Dunebug to bring. And you see me just kind of recognizing the situation, like, I don't see any way I win at this stage. We do commit to a full Karate Chop down here, but one Psy Wave is going to register first, and I say, good game. Like, was it Dedenne? He goes, no, it was Diggersby. And Axen is going to take down myself here in the Group F Winners Finals. And I was still able to win my next match to make day 2. But enough about me. I know this first match was kind of me, like, critiquing my own plays. I can't help it. I can't help but critique my own plays. But now we're going to get into the rest of Axen's run. And we're going to move on to day number 2, winners semifinals, where he plays against Ilqm. And I just want to show you guys something with Ilqm. Let me hide something real quick. But Ilqm coming into this tournament, look at his previous results. Look at this. He's coming off 2 consecutive tournament wins in Atlanta, Toronto, 5th LAIC, 5th Louisville, 3rd Baltimore. Maybe didn't have the best showing at Worlds, but even before that, 4th NAIC, 9th LA, 7th Indy. Did he have a... like, this guy has just been the pillar of consistency, and you could make an argument coming off back-to-back wins, right? Maybe like the best player in the world right now. And Axen, with what he's accomplished in his career as a world champion, an international champion, 2-time regional champion, I don't know if there's anyone with a more impressive resume than Axen in terms of first place accomplishments, right? So it kind of felt like a clash of the best player right now versus maybe the greatest player ever to me. And they're going to put on a show for some really high level battles here. So let's get into it. And the cool thing about this matchup is they're pretty much running a mirror team. The only difference is Axen has Araquanid instead of Golisopod that Ilqm is running. So more of a bulky Pokemon as opposed to more of like a high attack pressure Pokemon. And then Ilqm is running Ice Beam on Lapras, and Axen is running Skull Bash, which in this particular matchup, I think the Skull Bash is just a little bit better simply due to the Lapras mirror, right? Simply due to the Lapras mirror. Do I have the playback speed up? You see their accomplishments. Ilqm literally has won 2 tournaments in a row. Axen won his last tournament, and here we go. Game number 1, a tough lead for Axen. And he is going to safe swap the Drapion, and that's going to be one of the themes of this matchup that we may see again, right? The Drapion looks pretty safe on both sides. And Ilqm going to go for the Sparkling Aria here. Axen deciphering whether he wants to shield, and he is going to shield. Goes for a Crunch now. Ilqm going to respond as well. This is a matchup I'm sure Ilqm has played a lot. And going to throw the Sparkling Aria once again. Axen understands the importance of switch advantage here, and Ilqm gives up switch. Now it's Diggersby on the Drapion, but the problem Axen faces is his shields are down, and this Diggersby is never going to see the Dedenne. And you see the look on Axen's face. He understands he's behind enough energy right now where his Diggersby is simply going to get outpaced to the 3rd Aqua Tail, which is going to knock out even with the successful Fire Punch bait. We see the Aqua Tail coming in here. Ilqm just throwing it one before the Scorching Sands, taking no chances. And this looks like a pretty tough position for Axen. Ilqm going to throw the Crunch on 6, maximizing energy. Maybe even considers swapping. No, just going to play this safe. Going to force Axen to expend energy. And now he can simply align his Dedenne here. We're going to see a Sparkling Aria come through, and this is going to connect onto Dedenne. And then we actually see a combo play with the Aqua Tail. Maybe is there some hope here for Axen? Aqua Tail going to put Dedenne really low. We see another swap in, but this Aqua Tail is not going to be enough. I think Axen maybe had to commit to the Crunch, but he recognized that Ilqm would have got there first, only 1 turn away there. And then we're going to see Axen commit to the farm down. Does get it, comes out the Sparkling, but as long as Ilqm's move shows up here, he is going to be able to take game 1. And I believe, I could be wrong, but this might have been the first game that Axen dropped all tournament. I don't think Ilqm had dropped a single game all tournament up until this point. On day 2, Axen, I also want to commend Ashton Ash and Alpha Phoebe, who faced off against Axen, who he was able to beat to get to this point. Great runs from those two trainers. So Ilqm takes game number 1 here. They show a little instant replay. Axen with his signature Medicham plush. And here we go. Game number 2, the Dedenne Mirror. And I remember asking, like, is there a certain way? I think I was watching this. Was I backstage at this time? Oh, yeah, I think I was. Because they did all the winners games first. And I was on the loser side of the bracket at this point still. I was like, is there a certain way you're supposed to play this matchup? And yeah, they parabolic charge first. So that way you live to get to the play rough. So very interesting. I wonder if this is a matchup that they like had practiced. I'm sure they probably did. And then we see the instantaneous swap. And it's literally the mirror team. It's literally the mirror team. However, the one difference, right? Axen has Skull Bash on his Lapras. And Axen not going for charge attack priority. Maybe suspects that he loses charge attack priority against Ilqm's Drapion, because Ilqm has been known for his Drapion gameplay and has won charge attack priority against players like Out of Pocket in the past. Aqua Tail coming through, grabs the shield. We see the instant pivot, maybe tried to catch an Aqua Tail there, was Ilqm's thought, but Axen doesn't fall for it. Throws the crunch, going to bank an Aqua Tail himself, and then able to align his own Lapras against this opposing Lapras, which is going to be able to absorb this energy. Trying to keep track of this energy, I'm sure, is Axen. And this is so tricky, right? Like, there's still 2 Pokemon lurking on both sides. Goes for the Bash here. Wants to guarantee the knockout or the final Protect Shield. Bash does knock out. Ilqm gets to the crunch. Going to fire it off here. Axen going to use the final Protect Shield. But there's just so little health now on Ilqm's Drapion. He's forced to use the final Protect Shield. He's going to build up. Gets the crunch. This is going to knock out the Lapras. But remember, Axen still has an Aqua Tail banked. And he's just going to throw it immediately. No messing around. And even if Ilqm had caught that, I think the Drapion simply would have got stung down before another Aqua Tail. So maybe a pretty safe situation for Axen to throw the Aqua Tail there to even up this series 1 game apiece. Very well played. And this is a... Oh, I think I went too far. And this is a massive game 3, because what this determines is who secures a spot in day 3 in the winners finals, which is going to be a best of 5 guaranteed top 3. Loser will have to work a little bit harder, win a few more matches to get themselves to day 3. And here we go. Dedenne, tough lead for Axen, but he safe swaps Drapion, and Ilqm counter swaps Pod, and you see Ilqm immediately shaking his head, because he understands that Axen can flip this matchup potentially. Axen can play out the 2-shield scenario and flip the alignment. And if that's the case, that's going to majorly benefit Axen. So Ilqm immediately finds himself in a precarious spot here. He is going to throw this X-Scissor at the Drapion. X-Scissor going to get the shield, and then we see a crunch caught. This is pretty massive for Ilqm, because although he gives up the alignment, he is now able to save quite a bit of health on his Pod, and his Pod is also very close to an Aqua Jet. So that's massive for Ilqm. Now we're going to see a crunch get off against Axen's Lapras. And Axen, this may have been the one mistake in this matchup for him, not throwing the Sparkling Aria first and taking another crunch. I don't know if this was intentional or not, or if this was a miscount, but I think throwing that Sparkling Aria first might have been more beneficial for him. Instead, he takes another crunch and then knocks out the Drapion. And what this is going to allow is Dedene's never going to have to eat a Sparkling Aria worth of chip damage. Axen does make the incredible catch, but Ilqm, recognizing it, undercharge, gets the Fury Cutter down, and this extra energy allows him to get to an Aqua Jet anyway. And Aqua Jet being a very strong move, this is going to result in putting Diggersby within play rough range. And Axen, it looks like he could have probably overfarmed more there, but it's not like a Scorching Sands would have one-shot the Dedenne anyway. If we go to our handy-dandy pvpoke.com and we look at the battle simulator, Diggersby against Dedenne. Scorching Sands does 67% approximately, so the Dedenne was about full health. Doesn't seem like it would have one shot anyway. So even if Axen had built up a little bit more to get there first, would not have impacted the outcome. And Ilqm takes the win. You see him saying vamos. And he's going to day number 3. Axen is going to now have to fight a few more matches to try and secure a spot himself in day number 3. And he probably had to wait quite some time for his next opponent. The first one was going to be T-Wastel, who had a unique team that Axen was able to defeat. And then I want to highlight this particular match against Zzweilous. Just because I don't want this video to be too long or it's too intimidating to click on. But it's Axen versus Zzweilous. And for those that are more casual viewers, right? If I go to the Dracoviz database, Zzweilous, he actually didn't go to Atlanta, but he signed up, so ignore this 129. He actually wasn't there. But look at this guy's consistency. I mean, even since Worlds, he got 13th at Worlds, 4th, 2nd, second at EUIC, 5th in Utrecht. Just a phenomenal player. And I think kind of one of the consensus best players in Europe, strongest in the world. And here we go. And he was running a very unique team with Shadow Scizor, Corsola, Galarian Weezing, Greninja, Lapras, and Credilli. The Araquanid does look problematic for ZZ. It's really just the Corsola and the Weezing that he has to comfortably deal with it. So I think the Araquanid is going to be pivotal in this particular matchup for Axen. Here we go. Araquanid versus Scizor. And look at how much these bug bites are chunking, dude. The bug bites chunking the Scizor. There's actually a break point, apparently, in that matchup where if Scizor does not have enough defense, the Araquanid does an extra damage every bug bite. And I mean, Scizor only has so much health, right? So Axen able to respond to ZZ's Lapras with his Skull Bash Lapras, and this is a very good matchup, even though it's a mirror matchup. ZZ is going to invest a Protect Shield, and these Psywaves are still doing the same amount of damage, and then combo plays with the Night Slash. Maybe Axen hoping he hangs on here, and he does! And he does to get off the Sparkling, and that's devastating for ZZ. Now he's going to have to let Scizor go. That still had a pretty good chunk of health. And this just looks like a really commanding position for Axen. He still has such a healthy Araquanid. It's going to be able to take all this energy on the Lapras. Lapras was such a safe pick in this meta. And I think one strong thing about Axen's team that may have helped him is not only did he have the Bash Lapras, but he also had the Araquanid. He had two things, not just one, but two things that can absorb all the energy from Lapras. Which against most teams was pretty safe. My team included. I don't think I had a single water resistance on my team, even though I liked my team a lot. That was one thing I knew, that Lapras was quite safe against me. So Aqua Tail comes through. Credilli can certainly hold its own in this matchup, but up a Protect Shield should be pretty comfortable for Drapion. And going to go for the Crunch now. ZZ deciphering whether he wants to Protect Shield, and he will. Gets off another Rock Tomb to debuff the Drapion. And Axen going to not bother clearing the debuffs, just going to go for the Crunch here. Feels like this, maybe plus the Bug Bites is enough. ZZ doesn't get to that Sparkling. That was actually awfully close. If he got there, maybe would have opened up a win condition. But gets to another Aqua Tail. I think Axen had energy, though, on his Araquanid, right? So maybe would have been fine either way. 1-0 lead for Axen. And keep in mind, this is top 4. This is the final game of day number 2 to try and get to day number 3. And here we go. Interesting matchup. Araquanid into Credilli. You deal super effective Bug Bites, but you have to be a little bit concerned with that heavy-hitting Rock Tomb. Super effective. Axen thinking about whether he wants to Protect Shield, and he lets it go. Rock Tomb doing quite a bit of damage, but Araquanid hangs on. And now, I don't think a Water Pulse is going to be enough, especially after the debuff. Even with, yeah, maybe like you barely hang on without a debuff. With the debuff, you definitely hang on. Rock Tomb gets shielded this time, and Axen going to farm down. Does he preserve Araquanid? Oh, goes for the Bubble Beam, and ZZ's going to call it. This is going to be a double debuffed Bubble Beam. Swaps Drapion in, and it's met by Greninja. And normally Greninja's not going to appreciate a Crunch here, but debuffed? Well, okay. Oh, wait, what am I talking about? Drapion's not debuffed. I'm trolling. Hydro Cannon connects. Drapion barely hangs on to get off a parting Aqua Tail. ZZ doesn't love it, but it's just an Aqua Tail. And this is the awkward thing now for Lapras against Greninja, is these double resisted Psywaves are probably just doing 1 damage. So this is not an easy farm down for Lapras, and Greninja is so fast to Night Slash. It's going to keep spamming them off. I think only 2 away. Oh, and the quick swap into Scizor. Scizor still very healthy. We're going to see Sparkling Aria get Protect Shielded. Trailblaze coming through. Going to get the Protect Shield. And Axen just gets farmed down by the Scizor and that crazy attack that it has. Well played by Zzweilous here, as he's able to take down Axen and tie the series up 1 game apiece. 1 game to get to day 3. And the cool thing about winning this is you get yourself in a best of 5 scenario. And I think I probably speak for a lot of like top trainers. Well, not to put myself in that category, but after my performance this weekend, but I shouldn't bash myself like that. Top players is they probably enjoy a best of 5 scenario because it gives you more opportunities, maybe less margin of error, and you feel like I don't know, it just gives you like a better chance where whoever played best in that match ends up winning. And here we go. Decisive game 3, and it's a tough lead for Axen. ZZ brought the Corsola, and Axen safe swaps Lapras, met by Credilli. Not ideal. This is not an Ice Beam Lapras as well. So ZZ not quite as threatened, but Sparkling Aria still does enough. And ZZ maybe not shielding the first one could have been something, I don't know, that maybe he could have done differently here. Another Sparkling comes through. ZZ not going to shield again. Confident that he can take this and get off the Rock Tomb, which he does. Axen deciphering whether he wants to shield, and he is going to shield. He's going to fight for switch advantage here. Goes down a shield in the process and gets the Psywave down. And he's going to get off a parting Sparkling Aria. Notice how he threw it right away. Just wanted to make sure that he didn't go down to like a bullet punch or something. And he gets the alignment he wants. And we're going to see how dominant this particular matchup is for Araquanid, able to take the Trailblaze. You see these Bug Bites just chunk and go straight for the Bubble Beam to debuff this as soon as possible. Bubble Beam connects. And what's going to be pivotal here for Axen is he's not going to have to use a shield in this matchup. He's going to get the bug bite down and come out with a bubble beam. And it's just a bubble beam. It's going to do pretty much nothing. But what it is going to do is it's going to debuff the Corsola and lock Corsola into a debuff. Corsola is the last Pokemon for Zzweilous. He cannot clear this debuff. And this is going to allow Drapion, which normally would lose this matchup down a shield. Normally, Corsola in the 2-to-1 shield scenario, this Power Gem plus the Astonishes would end up doing enough to get rid of the Drapion. But because of the Bubble Beam debuff, Drapion is going to hang on, get to a third crunch, and secure Axen a spot in day number 3. Zzweilous with an incredible run. I think ZZ also lost his first match of the day on day number 2 and had to win like 5 in a row just to get to this point. So just a stud, a heck of a player is ZZ. But Axen, it was his day. And would it be his day on Championship Sunday? That's the question. Here we go. This is the losers finals. So Ilqm, who we saw earlier, ended up beating P4toman. Now, who is P4toman? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked. P4toman has had one of the greatest seasons of all time. He was able to get 5th in Gdansk, 9th Stuttgart, 7th Birmingham, won the European International Championship, 7th in Stockholm, 2nd in Sevilla, and he's also won Gdansk in season past, 2 runner-ups in seasons past. So P4toman is trying to become the first player ever to win 2 internationals in one season. Also 2 internationals in general, which is also what Axen is trying to do. So here we go, man. 2 Titans going head to head. And I have to say, in this particular matchup, once again, Araquanid looks to be favorable for Axen because Pato, he certainly has to worry about it, right? The Greninja doesn't want to see it. The Marowak doesn't really want to see it, even though it has super effective Rock Slide. The only legitimate answer is the Mandibuzz. Credilli also has some play there. Azumarill, of course, also has some play, but you debuff the Azumarill, and suddenly those play roughs aren't doing much. So this particular matchup, I think, was in the favor of Axen, but against a player the caliber of P4toman, I don't care what the matchup is. He is going to be tough to beat no matter what. And he is hungry to get back to the finals. He had a tough go against Ilqm where in game 1, it seemed like he was maybe in a favorable spot and he ended up lagging with his Marowak, so they had to replay. Pato then went down 2-0 and then was able to come back, tied up 2-2, and then lost the decisive game 5. So Pato trying to stay mentally strong here. And what I loved, I watched this series after I got back home. It was happening. And this strategy I loved from Axen. Drapion lead, Araquanid in the back, because in the event you see the Mandibuzz, which is the only legitimate answer that Pato has for Araquanid, you can soft lose this as the Drapion, and then your Araquanid is free in the back. So I love this strategy as Axen. And then we see the pivot into Credilli, and Axen is just perfectly content staying in here. He's just going to completely stay in here, going to shield the Rock Tomb to keep alignment because he doesn't want his Araquanid aligned with the Mandibuzz. And the Mandibuzz has been chipped so much that it is more than fine against the Lapras. Lapras, even without Ice Beam, is a fine matchup. It's a pretty even matchup against Mandibuzz. And once again, we just see these Bug Bites chunking away at Scizor. A nice combo play with the Aerial Ace to get some solid damage off. And we see the pivot into the Lapras, but the Aerial Ice just, I don't know if that's going to be enough for Scizor to now be able to overcome that Araquanid. Here we go. Foul play coming through. Connects onto Lapras, and I love that Axen is just over-farming as much as possible. Wants to have an attack for the Scizor if this knocks out Mandibuzz. It doesn't quite. Oh, and a nice combo play here from P4toman on the Trailblaze. But Axen makes the smart read. Just simply shield to get off your Sparkling Aria, and then swap into Araquanid. Get to the Water Pulse first. Night Slash would not have been enough. P4toman was committing to a Trailblaze, which even that might have not been enough. And Axen going to take a pretty comfortable game number 1 win. This is a best of 5 reminder. The losers finals for a chance to play against Ilqm in the grand finals. Here we go. Same exact line for Axen here in game number 2. And Axen, oh my God, he's lagging. He's lagging with his Drapion. I remember this now. I forgot this happened. And Pato, I think he's trying to say like, Pato's trying to say like, here, you Sting, I'll like stop for 3 turns or something. But it's so laggy here. The game is like losing its connection. So they're saying like, let's just restart it. And I think this is a good thing. Just restart it. Don't bother playing out a game that you know is going to be rematched anyway, right? Because not only is that kind of a waste of time, but also it's not really fair to the person that's not lagging as well, because they're essentially playing a game that even if they win, like it's going to get rematched. So they restart the game. Fix your game. Pokemon Go. Here we go. Mandy into Drapion. They agree to go same lines, I'm sure. Gentleman's agreement. And here we go. Aqua Tail coming through. And it's really the same strategy for Axen. So we'll see if Pato decides to adjust in any way. Maybe he like just wins the Zero Shield and preserves the Mandy. Is that what he goes for this time? Let's see. Another Aqua Tail coming through. Pato can safely do one and throw again. But then he leaves quite low with his Mandy. And I think I remember how this game plays out now. Pato wins the Zero Shield scenario, and Axen goes for the most devious farm down with his Lapras. Even though it's minimal health on the Mandy, with these double resisted Psy Waves, they're doing so little. Axen is going to generate so much energy. He's going to take 2 moves in the process, but he gets so much energy with his Lapras here. Oh my gosh, he's basically capped out on energy. And then check out the recognition here from Axen. Axen's at 100 energy. Think about the mental math here. Think about the mental math. So 100 minus 45, he's at 55. He does 1 Psy Wave. He's at 40. He's at 59 minus 45. He's at 14 energy. And he understands in this moment that he can reach a 3rd Sparkling before P4toman gets to a Rock Tomb. Because P4toman is going to be 5 Acids away or 10 turns. So how many turns was Axen away? If he was at, what did we say? 55, 59, 14 energy. It'd be, I'm struggling myself. It'd be 18, 22, 26, 30, 34, 38, 42. So 8 turns away, if my math there was right. Axen recognizing he gets there to the 3rd Sparkling before the Cradily. I think I personally would have just pivoted immediately in that moment, but Axen said no. And then Axen also confident that he can Bug Bite down before he would ever have the risk of getting Rock Tombed again. And you see the expression, the body language from Pato. I think he recognizes this is a pretty tough spot. Bubble Beam connects on Azu. And then check this out. We see an Ice Beam bait and he no bubbles it. And I'm like, what are you doing? But I guess if he calls the Ice Beam right, it's probably over anyway, and it may be over in general anyway. So P4to kind of recognizing that and going over 100 energy. Going to clear the debuff. And his move doesn't show up here, but Araquanid does win the chart attack priority against Azumarill anyway, so this wouldn't have really impacted much. Yeah, so Play Rough does get shielded. There's a fly in my room. Get away, fly. And another Bubble Beam. Axen just kind of securing this matchup here. I wonder if there was any way, because I think what we do end up seeing is the timer come up. I wonder if there's any way P4to could have won this game by timeout if he stayed in, actually. If he had gone like straight Ice Beam and just committed to timeout, I wonder if that was a potential win condition for P4to. I don't know. Because if he had 2 Pokemon remaining at the end, right, and Axen only had 1 when the timer came up, that could have been a win. So Axen takes the 2-0 victory, right? Everything going in his favor, looking pretty dominant. Game number 3, looking for the sweep. Credilli versus Araquanid, going for the Rock Tomb. Axen wants to preserve the health. Puts up the Protect Shield. Here we go. Drapion now swaps in, and after building up some energy with the Credilli first, then P4to counters with the Mandibuzz. The awkward thing here, if you're P4to, is you know that Araquanid is going to be a pain to deal with later. So I was a little bit surprised not to see P4to go in with the Scizor here. But he comes in with the Mandibuzz. And he does have a lot of energy on the Credilli, which will be useful later. And then Axen going to get to another Aqua Tail here. P4to going to save the Aerial Ace for later. I love this play. Axen does reach a parting Aqua Tail, and P4to wants to preserve health on his Credilli, so he shields the Aqua Tail. In comes Lapras. Wants to tank this energy on Lapras and save the health on Araquanid. We see P4to over farming, so that way it makes it less comfortable for Axen to like hard swap Araquanid and still get to another. Oh, and he doesn't get there. He doesn't get to the Rock Tomb. That's huge for Axen. Axen goes for the Bubble Beam bait. This is a massive decision, and P4to calls the Bubble Beam bait. Not good for Axen. We see the combo play with the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace connects. And we're going to see Water Pulse coming through this time. This is going to get shielded. This time P4to makes the right call. He made the right call both times. P4to goes for the double up. Night Slash coming through, but the Lapras isn't quite in Night Slash range. Has the Sparkling, but we see the boost. The timely boost for P4to is enough to knock out the Lapras, and Axen can't believe it. P4to stays alive, and you can say it's lucky, but that is part of the game that we play. 12.5% chance, and P4to played to that 12.5% chance win condition of getting the Night Slash boost. And that is pretty insane stuff right there. That is like a legendary type of win to pull that one off. And suddenly, the pressure is on a little bit. Okay, here we go. Great lead for Axen. Leads into the Greninja. Safe swap Credilli. And we're going to see how awkward this matchup can actually get. We're going to see how awkward this matchup actually can get for Drapion. Despite resisting the acid, and you're putting out neutral damage, the ability to have a 100% debuff move like Rock Tomb, when you play out 2 shield matchups, it just makes things so awkward for the opponent. Another Rock Tomb coming through. Axen going to take it this time. And what this is going to allow P4to to do is he is going to win the 2 shield scenario and get the full acid down. And now if you're Axen, it's like, where do you soak this energy? Where the heck do you soak this energy? Rock Tomb coming through. And because of the debuff, He gets to a second Rock Tomb. A second Rock Tomb. And now not only did he keep the alignment he wants, but he gets the switch advantage as well. But maybe Axen still has play here because a Skull Bash pretty much just one-shots this Greninja. Night Slash gets the boost. It gets the boost. And oh my gosh, now this second Night Slash is going to do enough damage where I don't think Lapras is going to be able to do as much meaningful damage to the Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz is actually just going to simply be able to farm down. It would have had to expend energy otherwise to get rid of the Lapras. Even without the boost, I think it would have been close. I don't know if P4to for sure wins. I think it would have been close. But with the boost, it made it kind of convincing there. And thanks to 2 boosts, P4to has now... partially, the first game, it was literally the only way he won was because of the boost. That game, I don't know. I don't think we can say for sure whether he would have won or not, if not for the boost. Maybe if you like broke it down and analyzed it closer, you could tell. But Axen now is back against the wall, right? He was up 2-0. All of a sudden, you're in a 1-game situation. Best of 1. Winner goes on to the grand finals. And that's got to play with your mind a little bit. Play with your head. Getting boosted on by these Night Slash users. And here we go. Decisive game 5. Credilli into Drapion. Axen goes for the Aqua Tail bait. Understanding that P4to is going to want to shield the first because he gets a guaranteed debuff here. Axen is going to respond with a shield of his own. And going to go for a crunch on the charge attack priority. Here we go. Crunch connects. Rock Tomb coming through. Connects onto Drapion. Is Drapion able to get to 2 moves here before getting farmed down? P4to lets it go. This play actually surprised me a little bit. And it comes down to a simultaneous KO. Can you think about this situation? 2 Pokemon remaining. It comes down essentially to a prediction of what to come in with here. And they're both thinking about it. If you're P4to, you have 2 options. You have the Mandibuzz, which has the chance of getting just completely hard countered by something like a Dedenne. Or you have the Greninja, which if there is a Dedenne in the back, right, like at least it can fight back a little bit. And you have Axen, you have the Lapras, and you have the Araquanid. I guess both are relatively safe, but maybe the Araquanid is less safe because you know that Mandibuzz is probably coming no matter what, because that's the best answer for the Araquanid. 3, 2, 1. And Axen makes the correct call. We see the swap, we see the counter swap, and although this is a pretty even matchup for Mandibuzz versus the Lapras, this is going to be a situation where Lapras can hold its own just well enough where I don't think there's any way P4to can overcome this. P4to is going to be clever here. We see Axen go for the Skull Bash to do some more damage to bolster that defense. We're going to see P4to cleverly bank all this energy so he can maybe try to combo play. And check out what happens here. Axen... Night Slash comes through. Another boost. Axen can't believe it. Puts his hands in the air. A boost to Night Slash. 2 consecutive boosts. But Axen still commits to the farm down. Gets off the Bubble Beam. And it's not going to matter. Because this Bubble Beam will permanently lock this Mandibuzz into a debuff. Axen's going to get to a Water Pulse as well, which will nearly be enough to knock out. And Axen still has the Protect Shield, and he's almost at an attack. He knows that a debuffed Foul Play is not going to be enough to knock out the bulky Lapras, and Sparkling Aria is going to knock out anyway. P4toman with some good sportsmanship here. Game recognized game, right? And Axen saying like, man, that was that made me sweat a little bit. And the signature fist bump is going to set up a rematch in the grand finals between what I described as maybe the best player in the world right now in Ilqm. 2 consecutive regionals he's won. This could be the 3rd straight tournament he's won. And we've never seen that before. We've seen players win back-to-back only a few times. That in itself is insane. To win 3 consecutive tournaments would be unheard of. And then on the right, we have a former world champion. A guy who also won his last tournament, so he's going for back-to-back tournament wins himself, and it's Axen. He's done it on the biggest of stages and is looking to become the first person to ever win 2 international tournaments. And here we go. It's nearly a mirror match. Once again, the only difference is that Axen has Araquanid instead of Golisopod as his water bug type, and he has Skull Bash instead of Ice Beam on his Lapras. Ilqm has not dropped a single match all tournament long. Axen not only has to beat him once, but has to beat him in 2 consecutive matches to become your North American international champion. And here we go. We start with the Dedenne mirror, and it's basically mirror teams. You see how line building and team building comes into play, and check out just like how dialed in they are. Neither of them want to give the opponent an edge, so they both immediately pivot here, understanding that when Dedenne is gone, right, how safe their water bug type is. So they know they can kind of freely pivot it once Dedenne is gone. I guess Dusclops would be an answer, but even Dusclops, it's not really like a hard punish for either of these water bug types. We saw the Bubble Beam connect. The problem here for Axen is I don't know if this Bubble Beam prevents Golisopod from getting to a 3rd X-Scissor. It's going to be close. And Ilqm immediately pivots Drapion, and Axen is going to respond with his own. He kind of has to, but he's behind a Sting. So this is not ideal for Axen. But obviously, only behind by 1 Sting, it's going to end up most likely being a situation where he has to catch. And it's also going to be a situation where Ilqm is forced to throw or predict that Axen's going to make the catch. And we actually have it revealed here that Drapion on Axen's side is the Drapion that's going to win the chart attack priority. Aqua Tail coming through, going to connect onto Axen's Drapion. Building up, building up. Ilqm is the one that tries to make the catch, and then Axen responds with a catch of his own. Wait, look at this. Instant replay. Look at this. This is insane predictions on both sides. So if Ilqm feels like Axen has to throw here, right? Because if he lets Ilqm do one more, it's going to be potential charge attack priority, and then the catch becomes more obvious. But Axen, I guess he was going to build up to the double before he decided to catch himself. And he goes for another. He goes for another. The insane counting. And I guess you could say, even if it wasn't like a catch, that Ilqm is kind of forced to throw this attack anyway. But this is just next level stuff. Catches the Aqua Jet. Sting down, has the double Aqua Tail ready. Ilqm is still 1 away. So Axen can freely just double Aqua Tail here. Doesn't have to worry about whether the Dedenne comes in or not. Or I guess, yeah, I guess he was still switch locked. So I guess he did have to look at that typing actually in the top right corner before throwing that first Aqua Tail. And takes game number 1 win. Man. What an epic clash here. Game number 2. Tough lead for Axen. Dusclops into Araquanid. We see the Drapion safe swap met by the Lapras, and this was kind of a theme of this series, was Drapion safe swap, because it is pretty safe into these 2 teams. And the interesting thing is, like, Ilqm winning back-to-back regionals, a huge part of his success was on the back of his Drapion gameplay. I said it myself, best Azu Drapion player in the world. And I mean, with his success and the season he's had, right? Like, just maybe take off the first part of that sentence, maybe to say best player in the world in general. But we see a nice catch here. Axen catching onto his Araquanid after playing out that matchup. Keeps his Drapion around for later, which could be very helpful. But this is going to allow Ilqm to keep the alignment. We also see Diggersby could be a threat for Ilqm later on here. Bubble Beam, going to debuff this Clops. But Ilqm wisely understanding that, like, this matchup is probably not going to fully play out, and he can bank energy for later. So he's just overfarming a ton. We see the pivot. Axen maybe trying to catch an Ice Punch since Ilqm was getting close to 100 energy. Or, sorry, trying to catch a Shadow Punch. And Ilqm, like, yeah, he's in an awkward spot. He's debuffed, right? So he's thinking, I don't want to stay in here debuffed, but I also, like, know this is a weird play, swapping Drapion into Diggersby. But Ilqm must have a solid Drapion. I don't know how good Drapion has to be to live Scorching Sands and reach double Aqua Tail here, if that's normal or not. I'm actually not familiar with the Zero Shield scenario here, if that's typical of Drapion to be able to do that. But here we go. Comes in Lapras, going to force Axen to throw the Scorching Sands here. And now Ilqm has still a good chunk of health and energy on Dusclops. Axen trying to reach the crunch. I thought he was going to live this Ice Punch to get it off. He doesn't live the Ice Punch. And that is a tough break for Axen, because now he throws the Bubble Beam to maybe, like, go for Bubble Beam plus Water Pulse. But Shadow Punch is going to be enough here anyway, even with the Bubble Beam bait. And Axen probably kicking himself, because I think an Aqua Tail plus a Water Pulse would have been enough there. But I don't really blame him personally, because I thought he was going to live that Ice Punch myself. So crazy endgame there. And Ilqm ties up the series 1 game apiece. But, man, both these guys are so good. It's like, and the matchup is so neutral-ish. That, like, even when one player has a great lead, because the Drapion is so safe, as we're seeing here, it makes Ilqm's life difficult. So Axen led Lapras into Dedenne. Tough lead. Safe swap Drapion met by Lapras, as we've seen multiple times over. Another crunch here. Axen wants to play out the 2s, it looks like, because if he can get shields down, it'll open up his Diggersby in the back for this back line of Ilqm. So Axen throws, and Ilqm actually giving up the alignment. And at this point, I thought this looked really bad for Axen, because he's down a shield. The Lapras has still got energy and some decent health. Like, how do you win this? So he decides to keep Drapion around. Then he comes in with Lapras here, and he's going to get a nice little Psy Wave down. And luckily for Axen, Ilqm doesn't get to a second crunch, only reaches an Aqua Tail here. So this is still not really like a farmable amount of health. You have to probably throw energy here at some point if you're Ilqm. So he goes for the Sparkling, connects onto Dene, and Ilqm gonna overfarm, throw the Parabolic Charge. This will obviously knock out the Lapras. Diggersby comes in. Ilqm going to swap in and throw the Sparkling Aria. Still has a Protect Shield with Lapras. And Axen throws the Fire Punch. Draws the final Protect Shield. Then the Switch Timer comes up, and he gets to the Aqua Tail first before the Sparkling. Playing with the Switch Timer is how Axen's going to be able to overcome this battle here. Ilqm's going to be forced to fire off the Parabolic. But I don't think the Diggersby is even in play rough range. And Axen actually gets the quick attack down before the play rough. So pretty crazy there. Just two players dialed in, and Axen able to overcome a tough lead there by maneuvering around. Here we go. Game number 4. And it's the same thing, except it's in the reverse this time. Axen led Lapras into Diggersby. Tough lead for Ilqm. So he's going to safe swap his Drapion this time. Let's see if Axen plays this any differently, really. We see the crunch debuff come through for Ilqm. Seems like Axen has not had the debuffs go his way in this tournament. But he's not letting that get in his head. Aqua Tail coming through. Connects. Ilqm's at the double Aqua Tail here. And Axen going to elect to shield. Wants to keep his Drapion around. And I think this was a pivotal decision for Axen. Keeping this health on Drapion just makes things a lot more awkward for Ilqm. And then we're going to see a little bit of an overfarm. Has 2 stings for later. And Axen, the pinpoint counting here. Like, if this was me, I think there's a good chance I would have just Shadow Punched immediately. But the pinpoint counting to know he gets to this Shadow Punch still after 1 Hex 1 turn before. Super impressive. And now Dusclops still a solid amount of health against this Diggersby. Ice Punch coming through. And this is just an awkward situation for Ilqm, because that Lapras is still lingering as well in the back. Axen just throwing on proper timing. After 1 Hex with the Ice Punch here. Ice Punch connects. Gonna go for another one. Ice Punch grabs the final Protect Shield. And Axen just kind of playing this, you know, safe. Just gonna force Ilqm to expend energy here. And just makes the simple play. Just comes in Drapion, throws Aqua Tail immediately. I think understands, like, if Ilqm decides to catch, then maybe he can just get to a move with his Lapras. Like, just not overthinking it. And gets the win. And that is going to be a match win and a bracket reset for Itsaxn. Takes the best of 5. The first person to beat Ilqm in quite some time. Technically, in Ilqm's regional wins, I think he did suffer a match loss, but you know what I mean. 2 straight tournament wins. I forget who it was. I think it was Ashton Ash that beat him in Atlanta, and then maybe Sceptile Ice that beat him in Toronto. But then he would go on to win those tournaments. Here we go. Now we have the true grand finals, the bracket reset. Winner take all in this best of 5 series, and it's a decent lead for Axen. Drapion into Dedenne. Dedenne just straight up wins this matchup, however, in the 2-shield scenario, if you're willing to shield through it. And Ilqm going to boost his defense. We're going to see Axen fire off another Aqua Tail here. And Ilqm going to let this one go through. Axen going to go to another Aqua Tail, and a nice catch by Ilqm, but what he does here is he gives Axen the alignment. That's going to be really nice for him. He does keep a lot of energy on Dedenne, which could be annoying for Axen. However, you get Skull Bash Lapras on non-Skull Bash Lapras, plus you're up a Protect Shield. This is really nice. And Axen has brought the Araquanid very sparingly in this matchup, so Ilqm is probably not expecting it. That is something I think Axen does very well, especially from the 2 times I've played him. His lines have definitely caught me off guard a little bit. Especially, like, maybe not the game 1 line, but the variance of, like, the game 2 to the game 1 line. The adjustments, I think he does very well, as a lot of great players do. And here we go. Going for the Skull Bash here. Against Lapras, this will do a lot of damage, of course. Big time neutral damage. Ilqm looking to pivot, and you see him shake his head, sees the Araquanid. And although you have like neutral damage to fight back with, Fire Punch and And quick attack. This is just really efficient bug bite damage now. And Axen with the super effective bubble beam. And Axen just seemed really comfortable with this Araquanid. This is a Pokemon that maybe it's easier to use now that bug bite is buffed, I guess. But it seemed like a very awkward Pokemon to use before. And he's making it look just very smooth, like knowing when to bubble beam and then water pulse for the correct amount of damage. Things like that, I think, are easy to overlook. Axen takes a 1-0 lead here in the grand finals. Reset. Here we go. Game number 2. It was... Sorry, I actually missed that. Oh, I missed it because they didn't show it. It was... it must have been Dedenne into Lapras. So then a safe swap Drapion met by Lapras. As we've seen over and over again, I think Axen got the debuff that time in his favor. And going to play out this matchup in a devious Aqua Tail Bait. Understanding that this will definitely knock out if it's a crunch. Ilqm knows that, so will be more likely to shield since he still has such a healthy Drapion. Gonna build up more energy. Goes for another Aqua Tail Bait. And then check out what happens here. Ilqm sniffs out the Aqua Tail Bait, but the one sting knocks out before the Sparkling. And Axen is gonna get off not one, but 2 Aqua Tails here against this Dedenne. Ilqm visibly upset. Maybe thought that... I don't know if it was because he was one off on his counts or if it was because maybe the game didn't let him escape on the swap as fast as he would have liked. But now Dedenne is going to boost itself with another Parabolic here. Axen's going to get off a Shadow Punch. Dedenne will hang on, tries to get off another Parabolic, but it's not going to. And then you simply have a 2-on-1 fast break, as I like to say. And Lapras doesn't even need its Dusclops counterpart here. Lapras just straight up wins this matchup against regular Dusclops. And Axen in a very dominant position here in game number 2, looking to take the 2-0 lead against Ilqm. But I'm certain there's no way Axen, although maybe he was feeling confident in this moment, there's no way he's overlooking a player at the caliber of Ilqm. He's still making sure he's locked in. Shadow Punch coming through. Ilqm playing this out, but probably already thinking ahead to what he wants to do in the next game. Shadow Punch, still not enough to take out the bulky Lapras. As you see, Lapras going to beat Dusclops in all even shield scenarios typically. And this sets up a game number 3 where Axen is on the cusp, 1 game away from potentially becoming your North American International Champion. We have featured Ilqm before on the channel. I think we covered his Toronto regional run after a dozen or so top 8s when he finally broke through. Kind of universally recognized. I remember... Oh, you know what? I was saying... I actually... If you go back and you watch my my Louisville recap video, which funny enough is the last time I played Axen before this, I made a comment about the top cut, and I was like, you know, Ilqm, probably the best player in the world that hasn't won a regional yet. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he adds a couple of gold medals to his resume. And literally in his next 2 tournaments, he added 2 gold medals to his resume. Am I a prophet? Maybe. I don't know. Here we go. Game number 3. Golisopod into Drapion. And this is just playing with confidence, man. This is just playing with confidence. Aqua Tail Bait on the pod allows you to now outpace in this matchup and win the 2-shield scenario. And what this is going to allow Axen to do is take the alignment. And if you look at the back line alignment is exactly what he needs. He needs Lapras on Drapion. He needs Dusclops on Dedenne. And this is probably going to force Ilqm to go for a catch on the crunch. And Axen throws it right away, not taking any chances. Ilqm does make the catch, but is it going to be enough to overcome the alignment? Axen also banks a move. The game doesn't let him swap. So Ilqm gets a little bit of extra energy here, but luckily it didn't result in Axen losing his Drapion. Here we go. Parabolic Charge coming through. This is going to really bolster up this Dedenne. And now because it's double boosted, it's going to live the Shadow Punch and save the Parabolic for later. Axen still stuck in here momentarily. Going to fire off the Ice Punch against Drapion, looking to get out into Lapras. And Crunch about to come through. What's going to be crucial for Axen is the fact that he still has an attack banked on his on his Drapion. And now if you're Ilqm, you're in a weird spot, right? I thought he might use the Parabolic Charge here, but if you use the Parabolic Charge here, then Axen might be able to like farm down and come out with an attack. So he comes in with Golisopod instead, looking to overfarm as much as possible, but he has to double up because if he doesn't double up, there's a crunch loaded. Axen gets to the Sparkling first. Is Golisopod going to be able to hang on to this resisted attack? No, it doesn't. The charge attack gets off here from Dedenne, knocks out, but he comes in with the Clops, 1 Hex, and Axen is your North American International Champion.
That is 5 consecutive battles that Itsaxn was able to take off Ilqm. Ilqm just didn't have the answers. He tried to get creative. He tried to mix it up, but he was just unable to stop our former world champ, Itsaxn.
And also the former NAIC champion of the 2022 season, the first trainer to win 2 international championships.
First player to win 2 international championships, as my friend Martine said. And I really liked Axen's interview. So we'll skip ahead to that.
I said, I've won a regional.
Oh.
25 season as well. What a moment to get back in shape.
A little separation anxiety, you could say, from that Metacham, but he has been able to find a new best buddy. It was that Shadow Drapion, masterful display. All right, we are still getting set up here, but one thing I want to say here is I just saw this moment here from Itsaxn. You can just see it's sinking in here. In fact, let's go ahead and hear from Itsaxn. We have Butters on stage with Itsaxn right now.
Axen, you are the 2025 North American International Champion. What is going through your head right now?
This season has been a legitimate roller coaster. I got 4th place in my first tournament at Louisville, but man, I struggled for my next 3 tournaments at EUIC, Sacramento, and some other one I really sucked at. But ending off the season with a win at Portland and then reclaiming my NAIC title as well. Dude, I don't think I could have ever imagined this.
Speaking of that, it was 3 years ago. We were on this stage together when you got your first trophy as the 2022 North American International Champion. Since then, you've become a world champion. You've become a multiple-time regional champion. And now, you're the first trainer in Pokemon Go Championship Series history to win 2 international championships. What does that mean to you?
You know, when I won Portland the first time, I said, I've won a regional, I've won an international, Worlds is the last thing on my list. Well, now I've won 2 regionals, I've won 2 internationals. Winning 2 Worlds is the next thing on my list.
Isn't that pretty badass?
And
I thought that was pretty cool.
It must be such a roller coaster ride, right? I mean, you have so much success early on, then you become the world champion, then you have a little dip where you don't see as much winning, and then now you're back on top. Talk about that roller coaster, and please talk about your support system to get to this point.
Yeah, I mean, midway through the season, after I started like not even getting points from the regionals, when I was really just kind of floundering around in the meta, I was, for a bit there, kind of considering, maybe hanging up the coat here when I'm doing competing, but I'm glad I didn't. I had people around me. My mom obviously supports me at every competition. I had Dunebug, who talked me through that EUIC after I didn't do too great. He was there with me the whole time, and he made it so I still wanted to keep on going. And I'm glad for all the people around me, my teammates at Legend United as well, that very good people who are also very good at the game, and all the support around us, the community here, everyone in the audience, all the fans. Everyone here makes it worth it.
I think you made a really smart choice to keep competing. I have to go back a little bit, because there was a moment, we didn't get to talk to you since then, where you were up 2-0 versus P4toman, and you maybe had a win condition in that game number 3, and I think he probably only had a 12.5% chance of winning that game, and then it's just boost after boost after boost. What was going through your head then?
Well, the first time I knew it was my fault. I could have gone for a combo play with my Lapras. So honestly, I deserved the loss in Game 3. But the next couple of boosts, honestly, that was just ridiculous. There must be someone behind the scenes just flipping some levers or something to make this happen. Luckily, I got my Araquanid into the Greninja Game 5, so it didn't matter. But that could have been pretty bad.
I mean, when I saw that double Greninja boost, I was like, oh, there's no way it boosts again, and then it did. And then going into this grand finals, of course, it's a rematch versus Ilqm, a very similar team. How were you able to get such a stranglehold on that series?
Yeah, I mean, I played Ilqm yesterday. It was honestly, I felt like I had win conditions in all the games that I lost against him, because Ilqm did take me down to the losers bracket yesterday. But as you said, we have mirror teams, and I know my team, I know what my weaknesses are, so I know basically what his weaknesses are. My Shadow Drapion, basically free against the whole team. I know Diggersby is supposed to be a counter to it, but honestly, it's not at all. And just leveraging energy advantage on Lapras, I knew my Lapras had an advantage, so just using Drapion Lapras and just kind of neutral gaming through the whole thing, I think was what was the big swing for me today.
Well, congratulations to Itsaxn, once again, your 2025 North American International Champion. Before we give him his trophy and the other Pokemon Go top 4 trophies, we have a special announcement.
Special announcement was bottle caps, by the way, and which is pretty exciting. And as we wrap up this video, I just want to commend Ilqm one more time, because I know this video is kind of highlighting Axen on his win, but what Ilqm has done this season, I think, is nothing short of incredible. I was thinking about this: 3rd, 5th, 1st, 2nd. He literally has an average placing in his last 6 tournaments, so this entire season, of better than 3rd place. Like 2.83 average placing is legit insane. Because I think about, like, myself, and I don't know, I wouldn't say this has been my best season, but like, if you look like I've won a regional, I got a runner-up, I've got 5 top 8s, which is pretty dang good. I think for like 99% of players, you look at this season, like, this is pretty dang impressive, pretty dang amazing. But this, like, this doesn't even this is like, there's no way to measure this season where it stacks up to like what Ilqm has done this season in terms of consistency and the championships. I would say probably my best season in terms of consistency might have been like, I don't even know, 2nd season, 7th, 5th, 5th. But then I had like one fluff up here before a 1st place. I don't know, but yeah, I just want to give it up for Ilqm. I mean, like, what he's done this season has been literally insane, incredible. And then Axen, like he was saying, right? I mean, world champion 2023, had a few solid performances in the next season, but wasn't able to win. And then look at this stretch here. So like 25th EUIC, not terrible. That's what I did this. That's what I did this past weekend at NAIC. So like, it's meh. Oh, he lost round 1 as well. Wow. So that's a nice comeback after losing round 1. And then, yeah, tough go at NAIC, tough go at Worlds. Played his teammate Maxi round 1. And then Louisville Top 4 is great, of course. But then a stretch here of like 33rd, 193 at EUIC. So a stretch of a guy who was originally known as like Mr. Top Cut. He was known for his consistency, right? Because like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Second consecutive tournaments he top cut before ever missing one at NAIC in year 2. And went through a stretch of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 out of 8 tournaments that he actually missed top cut before winning Portland pretty recently. I was casting that tournament. And then NAIC, of course, this weekend, taking the crown. So, although personally, I was, I'm still reeling over my loss. Not actually my loss against Axen. I'll get into it soon. This video is not about me, but I had a pretty rough throw this weekend, which I was disappointed with because I felt really strong about my team, and I felt like if I had just not thrown so hard on day 2, I had a legitimate chance to go a lot further. So that's always tough when you just feel disappointed in yourself, knowing like you didn't play to the best of your abilities. But the world goes on, and it softened the blow to see Axen end up winning it all, because I was genuinely happy for him, and I would have been happy for Ilqm as well. But Axen's a teammate of mine, and I just like really like how he carries himself and represents the game and everything. And also, he has a channel and a Twitch, so make sure to go follow him there. I'm sure he'll post a video where you can get all his thoughts recapping his run himself, so make sure to check that out. But you got some of my thoughts and the lowdown on the run, and I'm sure his recap will maybe include a few of the matches that I didn't, because he had at least like 3 more matches on stream that I didn't include in this video, just because I figured we're at like an hour 20 minutes, so instead of like 2 hours, we've made like an hour 20. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Congrats to Axen. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. If you're new, comment down below. All comments are appreciated. And all that said, thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Peace.